My name's David Dodd. I am the brewery manager and one of the original brothers of Three Brothers Brewing Company. We're a small microbrewery based in Stockton-on-Tees. We set up in 2016 and it was a car showroom, but it was a very bare bones car showroom. And we, over the last sort of 9 years, have built and expanded and grown. And yeah, just kind of kept going and growing, and we now deliver beer into Edinburgh, Manchester, Nottingham, and most of the places in between, in a range of different formats. And yeah, so we've been an interesting journey. I think sustainability is critical. Like the three pillars, the financial, environmental, social, I think all of that is like, you've got to be financially sustainable, otherwise your business just doesn't work. You've got to be environmentally sustainable, because as a business, we have, between ourselves and all the staff, we've got about 12 children, and actually it's their future that we need to look after. And I think it's social, is particularly when it's something like beer. Beer is social. Like, the whole point is it brings people together, it builds community, and it's something that can be enjoyed. We do a lot of external events and stuff that are all community focused to bring people together. And actually that's a reason why. You've got to have the reason why, otherwise what's the point? Myself and my family, we'd never really run a business before, so there was an awful lot of learning from day one. But at the same time, from our backgrounds, there was an awful lot of planning that went into it from day one. So in particular, process flow, a lot of process flow management about how we minimize. Everything we do is heavy, so it's an awful lot of energy, it's an awful lot of effort to lift things up. So if you can avoid either minimizing the distance traveled between that, and then also kind of like how that all works together. So our brewery's done on a process flow, so things go in and they rotate around, they come out the door, and it just makes things a bit smoother. We recycle a lot. We look at energy practices, so LED light bulbs, so we've placed all of our light bulbs to LED. We insulate, and anywhere that has to be kept cold is heavily insulated. And on top of that, we've built a number of our own machines and controlling software that actually mean we cool beer to where it needs to be cooled, not too far. It's better for the yeast, keeps it happy, but at the same time we're keeping on top of what we need to keep cool at that point in time. There's a lot of we've done a lot of iterative stuff, but we were quite lucky in that when we planned the brewery before we started, we factored probably a good proportion of that stuff in. One of our biggest energy saving things, as well as your standard things like LED light bulbs, is we installed a large glycol cooler, which we built our own control software. So we've got 10 vessels that have all got beer at different stages that need to be at different temperatures, and it allows us to just kind of keep those temperatures kind of bang on, because fermentation is exothermic, so it's kicking out an awful lot of heat, and at the same time, when you get into the peak of summer, you're then trying to keep everything cold. Running your business, particularly a brewery business, it's the hardest part is you need to get up and running fast, which is not easy because it takes months to get started. And then you're already kind of right in the throughput of the day-to-day and pushing sales, driving business, doing different things. And it's so hard to have the time. I think the most important thing is anyone who's thinking of setting up a business, like I cannot underestimate how important it is to really sit down and plan things. Visit other places, ask them questions, see how they do their flows, their energy management, their water practices, because it's so much easier to learn from other businesses, and generally it's quite a welcoming and opening community. People will share information with you, they'll let you walk around, and yeah, so I think when you're in the thick of it, actually taking time is really difficult, but it's really important. And if you can sit down and look at some low-hanging fruit, or even if there's someone, a friend or someone you can trust who can just look at low-hanging fruit, because the amount of businesses that don't have LED is mad. It's really mad. You can recycle, save money that way. You can look at how much water you use for your rinse cycles and other things which you can time, you can manage, and actually even as automated things like a lot of breweries just have on-off switches. Well, why not have timer switches? If you know you're running a cycle, just run a timer switch. It's a £20 part, but it will save you more than that in a month in terms of wastewater. So, and probably the biggest one is do not spare the insulation. Like, insulation is everything, because particularly when you get into peak summer, it's a commonly used phrase that I've heard from many other breweries, but actually the real difference in breweries you can tell in the summer, because those that have a quality cold store, that have the efficient processes, that have all of the bits and pieces, they're the ones where their beer is consistent, where the public likes them. Whereas actually, if you don't have that facility in there for cold storage, for cold management, for racking cold, your beer just gets explosive. It's not a consistent product, and that ultimately loses you sales. So it is a very it's kind of, there is a minimum threshold financially that you should invest, otherwise it will actually cost you money. And then there is additional stuff on top of that, that if you looked at this, the payback period could be months, could be weeks, could be a year, but there's an awful lot of low-hanging fruit out there. And if you don't have the headspace to look for it, just ask a friend. Probably the most important thing is understand the value of being able to step away, even if it's for 2 hours, just to think about what you're doing. Because it's the hardest thing, because in a business, everything is going at all the time. There's always issues, there's always things that need to be fixed or adjusted, and it's really difficult. But if you can get away, so even if you're a cafe, if you can go to a different town over and ask that cafe what they're doing, have a look at what they're doing, more often than not, people will share with you. And it's that ability to see, okay, this is what we're doing well, this is something that's a really clever idea. Like being able to look at other businesses, it's so valuable. I think that there's an awful lot of stuff through the climate coalition they're trying to bring forward about people just trying to help people think about what they're doing. So this year we're going to do more stuff on our water practices. We are looking into a couple of energy saving projects. The tricky thing we've got is we're starting to hit a glass ceiling, in that we're very much getting limited by the building that we're currently in. We've outgrown it, and as I said before, it's so much easier to plan this stuff in before anyone's actually trying to drive forklifts around. So we are currently looking at an expansion project, and our hope is that the expansion project, we will put stuff in for solar and battery technology. We are looking into a waste valorization project with Teesside University. We are also talking to them about the possibility of a hydrogen copper, which would be an interesting project, particularly with the shift or like availability of hydrogen, and also the cleanliness and the efficiency of the burn. So it's definitely an interesting technology that we really want to look into. Tees Valley Net Zero helped us with a barrel project we were looking at. effectively we wanted to minimize our wasted product for our customers. So we did a project looking at kind of, can we use smaller barrels, can we improve our efficiencies, and it was really easy to sign up. It was quite efficient, to be honest, probably the fastest we've ever had. Kind of the response time, the turnaround time, it was really easy, and it made a difference. Like I think the project itself was probably maybe a year payback in terms of its saving, and that just halved the cost, which meant that it was just much easier, faster, we could bring it in sooner. And on top of that, just the general promotional support from the Net Zero has been really quite helpful. A lot of simple advice but it's the low-hanging simple advice that saves you thousands of pounds on your energy bill. When we started, we were paying 9 pence a kilowatt hour. We're now at 27 pence, and we've got a fairly lucky deal at 27 pence. So 3 times, energy's gone up 3 times. It is a big factor in the business's sustainability plan, as well as the environmental impact of that as well.